This is Mistletoe Bow. This is a really lovely stitch that I enjoyed very much. You can see it's much more sort of traditional, almost even a little bit prim compared to many of my designs. But I don't know, just don't think there are very many mistletoe themed designs out there, and the ones that I do see that claim to be mistletoe just aren't. You know, they have red berries or they have the wrong shaped leaves. Mistletoe is a very distinctive plant. It's a parasite. It doesn't grow on its own. It grows on other trees. I think mostly oak trees. I don't know if it's only oak trees. But anyway, and it has these very beautiful, very pale green, almost white, sort of ivory white kind of berries. And obviously the tradition is that you would hang it up in boughs like this. Mistletoe bow is what I've called this, and you'd hang this up somewhere and somebody might come and give you a kiss. So I thought this would be a really sweet little ornament to have, and you could hang it up anywhere you like where you think someone might like to come and give you a little kiss. So I've got that. I've got some backing fabric. This is linen that I can't quite remember where it came from, but it obviously was a garment because it's been hemmed. I wouldn't like to try stitching on it. It's not that sort of linen. It's dressmaking linen. But I think it'll make a nice background for this. You'll need some thread. We're going to see this stitching, so you want to think about what colour you want, and I think this is a really pretty, it's very pale, sort of mint green. It's not quite the colour of the stitching, but I think it'll be nice. Let me just check in case I've got, oh, maybe I might do that one instead. Okay, good. So we've got some thread. The other thing you'll need is some kind of batting or wadding. It doesn't have to be particularly thick or dense. You could use, if you've got a fusible fleece, in which case you would fuse that as if it were interfacing on the back of here. I've just got quite a thin polyester wadding, and that'll be absolutely fine for what we plan to do. You might want to, depending on how you feel about your stitching, the colour of the fabric and the wadding and so on, and I think I might, just because I always feel like it's a better plan to do it rather than not. I'm going to interface the back of this as well, and then you'll need something for hanging, and I think I'm going to use this little baker's twine. This is a machine stitch finish. I'm trying to think if there's a way that one could do a similar finish hand stitching it, and I honestly can't, because the machine stitching is the whole point of this one. So if you want a hand stitch, a hand stitch finish, you want to go and check out some of my other finishes. So we're going to start, as always, by ironing things, and as always, oh, here we go, we'll just use this as our cloth to protect the stitching. So we're going to give this a nice hot press with the Mary Ellen. I'm going to give it a little bit of a push it down, move it for a few seconds, and there's still a little bit. I'm going to do that from the other side as well then, and I might just at this point spray to just give it that extra little push. Get that as sharp as possible. That's really not the best ironing I've ever seen. These creases are clearly stuck in there. We're not going to see a lot of it. So like these bits out here, we're definitely not going to see. So I'm not worrying too much, but I would like to be able to get a slightly better press than that. Let's just turn the temperature right up. With linen, you can obviously put your iron up to its very highest setting, and it really will take it. And you can see this linen is coming out really nicely. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there and trust that the method we're going to use is not going to cause a problem. Now, what we do want to be able to do is work out the shape of our finished ornament. And there are a number of ways you could do that. If you're doing a circle, you can find a circle and trace around it. You might have a stencil with a sort of circle pattern. What I want for this is an oval, and I'm just wondering, I think this is going to work quite nicely. I've just taken a little reel of double-sided tape, and I'm just sort of squashing it to get it so that the stitching is inside there. And I'm going to draw around the outside so that the line that I'm drawing with won't be on the finished item. We're going to cut it off, but I am still going to draw it. I think I've got somewhere, I think. Oh, I don't know, maybe not. Yeah, here we are. I've got a pilot friction pen so that if the worst comes to the worst, we can always take this line off with an iron. So check that it's centered in the way that you want. I think that's fine. I'm going to do my actual sewing and cutting sort of 1/2 centimetre or so inside that. So I think that's going to be all right. I'm going to cut that out. No, I'm not. I'm going to interface it and then cut it out. And then I'll cut out matching pieces of the backing fabric and the wadding. So let's interface that first. Always be able to tell the difference between your feasible interfacing and your feasible adhesive. We are not using adhesive for this. We are using interfacing. Okay. I'm going to interface the whole thing and then cut out the shape that we want. So we'll just make sure we don't iron in any random bits of fabric. If you're me, and one of the ways you like to fix the stitching that you got wrong is just by chopping stitches out and leaving the loose ends, interfacing is brilliant because it will hold those loose ends and that stitch in place. You wouldn't use it for something that you was going to have really a lot of wear and tear, but let's face it, most of our stitching does not get a lot of wear and tear, so it'll be fine. And that interfacing can then, if you've then just got a stitch in the wrong place, you want to take it out, or it's in the wrong colour and you want to just make a quick correction, you can snip through the thread. There you go. This is why I'm not very good at tutorials, because I don't think these things through. So just a reminder, if you use the friction pen, your iron will get rid of it for you, which is nice to know, but also slightly annoying when you had forgotten and therefore got this wrong. So let's centre that again. Might need to wait for this to cool down a little bit. So I'm just going to get a different pen at this point, because like I say, it's really not going to appear on the finished piece. Okay, that's better. I can still see that now. Okay, so I'm going to chop that up. I know, it's all really scary, but it's not going to fray because of the interfacing. So that's the other thing that it does. I just think interfacing, I don't always do it, but for a lot of finishes I do, because it gives greater stability to your fabric and also greater protection to your stitching. So I wouldn't do it if I wanted something where I needed a really drapey kind of fabric in the finish. Like if I were doing, you know, the Kathy Herbermann hexagon ones, for example, I definitely wouldn't try and interface those. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to do the thing again of making sure it's symmetrical. I say again, which piece did I do this on? I can't remember. Oh, I know, the penguin. I wanted that one to be symmetrical, so I'm going to do it in half that way and trim. I'm going to do it in half this way and trim. And these aren't semicircles because I'm aiming for a sort of oval shape, but I do want it to be more or less symmetrical. There you go. I think that's a bit better. Okay, so then I'm going to cut a piece exactly the same size and shape from my backing fabric, and I'm going to cut one just slightly smaller from my wadding, very slightly smaller, but you don't want the wadding sticking out of the edge at all, and it doesn't need wadding at the edge. So probably this would be better if you pinned it. A lot of things in life would be better if you pinned them, but also I'm lazy, Oh, you can't even see it. There we go. Let's move into the screen. I'm literally just holding the piece that I've done on top and cutting around it as I go. It'll be fine. You can do yours perfectly if you like. I am not a perfectionist in life. I think life is too short. Okay, and then my piece of wadding. Again, pick off all the manky bits. Your wadding probably doesn't have manky bits, but mine always does. Because I'm not good at being clean and tidy, especially in my sewing room. Okay, so cut that. And then, like I say, I will just trim this a little bit smaller. Just a few millimeters all around, not even half a centimetre probably. Just to make sure it's caught nicely at the edge. So that's that. That is just a little drip from the iron. I'm not worried about that. So yeah, just a little trim of this to keep it all tidily inside. Now, you could do this as if you were making a pillow and do backs to right sides together and turn it out and do all of that. But we're not going to do that. We are not going to do that. We're going to pop this there. We're going to put wrong sides together, pin it down. If you think you've got any areas where the wadding is just a little bit near to the edge, just trim a little bit more off. Okay, so that looks fine to me, and then I'm going to pop that on top, and then I am just going to pop a couple of pins in this. You could do it with wonder clips, I guess. I feel more comfortable with this being pinned, so that's what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll just put one of these in as well. I'm not pinning near the edge because we're going to stitch around the edge. Now, there are a number of ways you could do this depending on the machine that you've got and how comfortable you feel stitching. I'm going to do this just with a zigzag stitch. If you've got a machine that does fancy stitches, you might have a scallop stitch, you might have a sort of machine version of a buttonhole stitch that could work, or some other kind of decorative stitch. But I'm going to do this on a zigzag stitch, but I want a very narrow zigzag stitch. So I'm going to do it on, I'm going to try on 0.5, but I'm going to make it 3.5 in width. And I am, look at me remembering to do this, going to try it on a sample just to see, and I'm going to change because I've got bright red thread in there, which we don't want. We want our pretty mistletoe berry green that I carefully selected and then entirely forgot about. I have got white thread in the bobbin and I'm not going to worry about changing it at this point, but you might want to just check what colour thread you've got in the bobbin, and you might want to change that out because it will be visible. So yeah, but I don't mind the white on this. I think it'll be fine. It'll be a slightly different look. But obviously, if you do have different colour threads on your bobbin and in your needle, you also want to do a little test run to make sure you've got your tension right so that it's not bringing through any thread from underneath. I mean, it ought to be, you ought to do that anyway, but if you've got different colour threads, it's very noticeable, particularly on a zigzag, I think. Okay. Hopefully your machine has a nice automatic needle threader. I mean, mine did. It just broke after a lot of use, after a lot of years. So someday I'll tell you the story of my sewing machine. It's an amazing story. But right, so I'm going to test that first. I was about to go in again, but no, look at me, doing the testing with the fabric. Right, so I haven't bothered putting any wadding in this. It'll be fine. And what I'm looking for is a really good coverage satin stitch that's nice from both the front and the back. And I think that is pretty good. Let me show you. Where is the stitching here? Okay, so you really can't see the white on that side. You kind of see a little bit of the green on the side, but I don't hate it, just at the edges. And it's nice coverage, I think. And so we're just going to do that round the edge of our piece. I would recommend, let's get our threads out of the way, starting on one of the sides where it's straight and flatter, and also remembering, if you're putting a hanger on it, now is the moment where you want to remember to do that. And actually, I want to pin that in place. So let me just do that before I start. I'm just going to take the thread that the baker's twine that I'm using, I'm going to put it behind the wadding, I think, so that you don't get a line of it very obviously coming up through the thing. And then I'm going to pop a pin in where I know that twine is and make sure I get the twine in my pinning. Okay, and try and do that without distorting my stitching too much. So I'm going to start down here, and I really am going right up to the edge of the fabric. My machine has a little speed gauge, and I'm going to put it on slow. Obviously, you can control the speed of your machine with your foot, but this means it'll stop me from going too fast. Because what I want to do is guide the thing through, but I don't want to push it through. I want a nice, even satin stitch, zigzag stitch. It looks a bit like a satin stitch all the way round. So you really do want to do this on something with nice, gentle curves. Until if you're very experienced and so on with your sewing machine, and you're confident that you can do difficult shapes. I mean, the method can certainly be, I don't know if you can hear any of this, the method can certainly be used for difficult shapes, but I would say start with something simple like this. Okay, so this is where we've got our baker's twine. All I am doing is turning it very gradually. I'm not pushing it at all. Tempting though that is. And my foot is right down on the pedal. But this is as fast as it will let me go because I've set the speed control. I'm just going to take that pin so it's slightly in the way. And then coming around. Ideal world, I think it's going to work out. It'll match up and there'll be no puckering. There we go. So this is my stitch piece. Because I've been zigzagging and I've overlapped, honestly, I'm just going to trim the edges, the ends of the thread straight off. You could pull them through and stitch them in or tie them off or whatever you would normally do with the ends of your thread, but I really think it's fine. So it's a different sort of finish. You might not love it, you might not want it for every sort of ornament that you do, but I just thought it was worth showing because as you can see, if you are a machine stitcher, it is super quick. What I will just do is press this once more. We could have made that a bit smaller, closer to the thing, but I don't hate it at that size. Yeah, just press it to try and minimize the sort of wiggle around the edges. Oh, now we've got a thing because I stitched that bit. There we go. And I'm definitely going to give that all the welly I've got with the pressing and the pushing out. You can see that's much better, isn't it? I think that's a really pretty way to finish things. I'm just going to trim, and you could do a little bit more of this as well. Any of the little fragments of the fabric that have stuck out the end. Check it on the back as well. But I think it's just a really nice little sort of rustic kind of finish for a prim ornament. Yeah, so that's Mistletoe Bow.